Alright, I'm ready. Let's go. Hi friends! So today plan is to go develop and also scan the film so I can see the result of those film photos. Hello friends, my name is Yun and this is my first videos on YouTube and welcome. I got the result back from the lab, so today I'm going to talk about my first roll of film, which film camera I use, my reviews of the result, and a bit about my experience and feelings of film photography. So why not we go ahead and do that. First of all, the film camera. This is the Panasonic C225EF, a point-and-shoot film camera that uses the 35mm film format, has a built-in flash, a fixed focus lens of 34mm focal length, and f3.8. These are the info I found online. I have no clue about this film camera honestly, but this film camera means something special to me. Long story short, this used to be my toy back then when I was a kid. At that time, I think I had no idea that it was actually a real camera. Later on, as I got into university, I became more serious about photography and videography. Then in October last year, I suddenly recalled that we actually had film camera. So I asked my siblings and they found it. Actually, there were two cameras. Here's the other one. It has an even more antique feeling. If this camera were used as a props on Titanic, I wouldn't be surprised. Too bad, I think I ruined this one when I was a kid. I can't fix it, the shutter is not working. Later I learned that this camera actually belonged to my grandpa. I guess he was a fan of camera too. And the Panasonic C225EF was a gift from my grandpa to his daughter, my mom. My mom is not a fan of cameras and taking photos. She said she didn't use it much back then, so she passed it down to me. I don't know, but after learning the story behind it, I feel like it's a destiny. Not trying to exaggerate it or make it sound fantasy. I didn't know my grandpa well as he passed away when I was really young. But through this camera, I feel connections with him. That also makes my understanding of photography even more meaningful, and that's why this film camera means something special to me. It may not be a fancy camera, but to me, it is unique. So I brought this camera with me on my last family trip to China.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Yay! Here's my first film photo. As you can see, the subject is cropped on the right and there's a white sections on the left. This was probably because part of the films was exposed to light when I was loading the films into the camera. But I wouldn't say it's a failure. We intentionally took this as a test shot to see if this camera was working. So I set it as an experiment and learned that the first few frames of a film roll are often ruined because the film needs to be wound further to be properly positioned. Here comes my second photo. So the film is now in the right positions and got the light exposed nicely. Honestly, I am very satisfied with this one considering it's only my second film photo. I think it's quite well composed, having the people as the foregrounds, the old town market that is with traditional Chinese architecture as the middle ground, and the majestic mountains in the background. I think it creates a contrast between the market energy and the serene mountains. The people in the foregrounds are far enough to create a depth with the middle ground, which is the market, making it feel like they are going to explore the market and drawing the liveliness of the scene. I remember we were there during the early evening. The warm and diffuse light from the sky adds a soft glow to the mountains and rooftop. Although it is slightly overexposed, but it creates a dreamy atmosphere, which I think is a nice touch. Later, we asked a passerby to help taking a family photos of us. Guess what? This is actually the only film photos we have everyone sent. I think it would be better if the angle was tilted up a little bit to include the mountain in as our background. But anyway, I'm grateful for this shot. The passerby was very friendly, and without her help, we might have no family film photo that has everyone sent. Moving on, this is amazing, in my opinion. I love the color and again the concept of using layers, foregrounds, middle grounds, and background to create depth. The subject, which is the gardener, is placed at the middle ground to serve as a bridge to tell how lovely it is to work as a gardener in this scenery. The red, yellow, orange of the flower pops but remains subtle, adding a bit of cuteness to the photo. On this row of films, I took 2 photos that are only about the summit. So here's the first one and here's the second one. The first was taken at Shangri-La Hu Tiaoxia, and the second at Lijiang Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. The difference between these two summits is the textures of the mountains. The first one has a more soil-like texture, while the second one has a more rockier texture. And if you look closely, the center of this photo shows there is snow on the summit but not on the slopes. Because Hutiaoxia has milder temperatures of around 15 degrees Celsius, in contrast, Jade Dragon Snow Mountain is much colder at -5 degrees Celsius, so the snow is scattered all over. And besides comparing the summit texture, I also just wanted to capture the simplicity of the summits against the blue sky. And this has become my best photos from this roll of film. I find myself often using the composition technique of layering in my photography, especially for white landscape. Here the foreground fence, middle ground walking figure, and background mountains and sky all work together. I think the foreground fence actually serves as an interesting element, adding a sense of barrier, distance, or observations between the viewer and the subject. I purposely positioned the horizontal line lower rather than right at the middle, as I want to enhance the negative space of the mountains and sky with the lens that my human subject is on. This helped emphasize skill and enhance the feelings of loneliness. I'm super grateful there was no crowds, only one subject in the frame. The backlighting created a strong silhouette, making the composition just so clean. Other than portraying the sense of loneliness, I also feel that it comprehends a sense of adventure as the small subject appears in this vast nature. I'm also surprised by the great contrast between the rock textures of the lens and the softness of the sky, the earthy tones and film grain it gave. I think that's something special about shootings in analog format. Enough for the charms of this photo, there's imperfections of course, and it is pretty obvious. Where on the top right corner you can see the blue radiance, I guess that's because I didn't open the window completely, causing it to block a bit of the lens. Anyways, I'm happy enough to be able to take these photos at that moment. Here's another one I took at the same place, but this one is without the human subject, more about the landscape itself. It is still beautiful, but I love the previous one better. And this photo right here, the thing that I want to share more about this photo is the story behind. The 2 human shadows here is actually me and my dad. We were climbing the stairs to reach the peak at Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. It's not easy, it's a high altitude of 4,680 meters, with thin and cold air. So my dad was taking a break. While I was waiting, I saw this shadow at our side. Without a second thought, I picked up my camera rig and took this moment. I think it's more about the beauty of noticing. Instead of taking a direct photos of me and my dad, this perspective is just way more interesting to me. I also quite like these photos. It captures the peaceful moments in the park, showing a balance between nature's and human presence. There are also layers in this photo, but I didn't take it too seriously about techniques from this photo. Rather, I just want to capture a calm feelings at that moment. So these are the photos I want to talk about. There are a total of 39 photos from this roll of film, but I'm not going to go through it one by one. I just want to share some of my favorite ones or frame that includes a bit of technique that is worth discussing. Others are more personal, candid viewpoints, or just authentic moments that you often can get from film photography. So talking about the Panasonic C225EF, well, it's not a high-end film camera, but it does its jobs well as a simple point and shoot. The fixed focus lens make it so handy, but it does has its limitations, especially in focus sharpness. Some photos show that the subject is not in focus while the background is sharper. In this case, the lens might not be identified which point to focus, or it meets the minimum focus distance. But that's also the charm of using an older camera. I guess I just need to play around with this camera a few more times to find its best focus distance. As for the Kodak ColorPlus 200, I really enjoy the colors and tones it produces. The warm and vintage look give a nostalgic feel, which I really love. With ISO 200, it performs best in daylight outdoor, but it definitely struggles in low light situations. This is the photos I took when we had our dinner in our hotel room. The room has sufficient house light, but still, it would have been invisible without using a flash. But a big part of it also because of the camera, as I can change its aperture and shutter speed for longer exposure. So that's wrapped up my first roll of films. Looking back at the result, I would say that shooting film is truly a unique and rewarding process. Unlike digital where I can instantly check and correct my photos, film has that elements of surprise and unpredictability. Compared to digital, film forces me to slow down, be more intentional with every shot, and to embrace the imperfection that come with it. I love the way film captures moment in a raw and organic way. It has a higher chance of mistake, it's not always perfect, but if you go back to the fundamental of photography and take all that into account when you are shooting, it will probably turns out perfect. So maybe that's exactly why it feels more real. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. By the way, I'm trying to do more of the vlog and maybe some personal works in this channel. So if this type of video match your liking, maybe consider subscribing to this channel. And if you're also shooting film, feel free to share experience. Or if you have anything wanted to let me know, kindly use the comment sections. It's free. Give me a like or shout it out if you like this video. It's kind of weird to say this lingo from my mouth. Anyway, thank you so much for your support and see you in the next one. You can tell how long I used to film this video. The ice cubes are all gone and the drink is in room temperature now. Crazy.